there.
Okay, I guess I'm going on soon. They had a Jimmy guy come on before me. Jimmy Morris,
That was something.
paranormal show.
After that point, it was I'm investigating to find out if this is true and if this is out there, if this was there. But since that day, I am trying to find the proof that they are there, not trying to find, could they be out there? I know they're there because, these things have happened and I've seen so many things personally since then that have reinforced what actually transpired that day and has happened in other places in different forms and fashions. And, I come to an old adage that I made a lot of years back when, people like to see me photographs and 9 out of 10 of the photographs they see me are fake ones that they tried to fake and they send them I got this off of my phone, or I got this off of my Gem Jin, or I got this from somewhere. And, I try to tell everybody when it comes to photos, my deal is, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but a paranormal picture's worth 1,000 criticisms. Because the only body who is going to be able to look at a photo and say if it's legit or not is the person that took it. That's the only one that knows 100%. There's not really a photo guy in the world that could go through, maybe if you had $1 million type of equipment that you could run through the paper or something, you might be able to determine if something was digitally inserted in a program. But, it's very doubtful that, any normal person you come across is going to be able to look at that and say, yes, that's a legit photo. And, I will not certify anybody's photo as legit because I wasn't there. I don't know if this photo is legit or not. I will say this looks something like what you would expect to see. And I will just as quickly say, this doesn't look right to me. This looks like a bunch of smoke. That's what it looks like to me because the ones that I've done, that I've caught, that I've seen, that I knew there wasn't, I know how they looked, and this doesn't look like that. This looks like how I've seen it whenever there's a room full of smoke.
Right. Well, now we're actually up against a break. Okay, but we're going to actually take a break, and then we're actually going to bring on Tim in the Tim Janikos in the second half. Jimmy, it's fascinating stuff. I wish we had more time, but we ended up with I guess double booking guests tonight, although we're kind of keeping the same kind of theme. But before you go, Jimmy, let's just talk about your website and maybe ways that folks can look at your website and find out more about this. And then we'd like to have you obviously back on the show and actually have you on for the whole hour and a half and get into more of these incredible events that you've witnessed.
Okay. Well, my website is www.tprt, which is the initials for Texas Paranormal Research Team.org. From there, you can read some of the things we've done. I don't post a whole lot of case information on my website, but you can get in contact with me there. I will post stuff on my Facebook page. You can look me up under Jimmy Morris or Texas Paranormal Research. Also, I will be out here in March on the Travel Channel. I've got a series coming out, Mysteries at the National Park. You'll be able to catch me on there. It's also airing currently in
I'm ready,
Canada,
Jackson. My hair's wild.
TNE channel over there. So
that's great. TV program, right?
Yeah, TNE, the TNE channel.
Haircut.
That's where it's at right now in Canada and the UK.
Big hairdos. Great big hairdos.
Yeah, that's exciting. I remember you getting on that soon. So just one more time, the website, and then we're going to take a short break. Then we're going to bring in our next guest.
It's www.tprt.org.
Excellent. Well, Jimmy, thanks so much, and we're looking forward to having you back on with more exciting things. And folks, we're going to take a short break. This is going to be the only break, actually of the night, and then right after that we're going to bring on our second guest, Tim Janikos, who is actually going to talk a lot about energy healing and all of the things that he does, and maybe we'll even line up some folks to do some call-ins and do some over-the-air energy healing. But stay tuned, and we will be right back.
Joyce Treasures is hosting a talent search for a new segment host. Do you think...
I'm here.
Hi, Tim.
Hello.
Hello?
I'm here.
Hello.
Pretty the pillow and reached for her weapon. Shanker enjoyed the
Okay.
suspense. He wanted to
So,
prolong his victim's agony for as long as possible.
Joe just needed a 5-second break. You back, Joe?
Okay, I'm here. I don't know who you're talking to.
Hello, Tim.
Hello.
Yep. We're. Oh, and Joe, I guess, is grabbing some ice.
Okay.
Only a weak gasp of air released from her lungs. She was in the middle of hyperventilating. She took a deep breath again and attempted to blow. This time the dart
Are you
released
back,
from
Joe?
the gun, but missed its intended target wildly. Find out what happens in my Caitlin Dig series. Search for me on Amazon. Gary Starter, that's Garystarta, author.
Just let me know when you're back, Joe.
He's making a margarita.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm back.
Awesome. I'm just gonna put you hot and play your open. So hold on one sec. You're hot.
And so, folks, we're back, and thank you for staying tuned. And of course, you're listening to Ordain Your Reality here on Gem Jin Radio with your host, Dr. Joe Donlin. And I am here now in the second half of the show. We had Jimmy Morris on for the first half of the show, talking about paranormal research. And here we're going to kind of switch topics with our guest, Tim Janikos, who's kind of a very interesting individual. He's been on the show a number of different times, actually multi-talented in so many ways, songs and so forth and so on, but also an independent energy emotional healer. And Tim, can explain what that is, and also maybe some of the things you might want to talk about tonight. Certainly the theme for the show this whole first quarter of the year is about turning failure into success. Sometimes we weave that somehow into the conversations we're having with our guests. But anyway, Tim, so welcome back to the show. You haven't been on for a little while, but you've been on a number of times. I think this is your fourth or fifth time here on the show.
Yes, I'm glad to be back. And I listened to the first half, and I think what I was going to talk about, I'm just going to completely throw out, because I'm going to talk about what Jimmy was talking about, because I feel I can be a perfect segue into what he was talking about. So along with my energy healing, I do entity clearing, or talking to entities. And so I would like to talk about what is an entity. I was raised Buddhist all my life, and I studied Buddhism for more than, I don't want to say how old I am, because that most people think I'm a lot younger than I look. Or I'm a lot younger than I am, because I look younger than I am. Anyway, so entities are everything that, whether it has a body or not, it's an entity. So you're an entity, I'm an entity. But also a corporation is an entity, a government's an entity. They have fictitious name statements, they become an entity. So a house is an entity, a car is an entity, a business is an entity. And everything that's an entity has its own consciousness. And you can talk to the consciousness of anything. You can talk to the consciousness of your house, you can talk to the consciousness of dead people, you can talk to the consciousness of cars, you can talk to... So when I get in my car, and I was driving from Niigata to Gifu, which is usually one tank of gas, but I was driving through the snow, and I guess with the snow tires, it used up a lot more gas because I was going through snow. So I got about 3/4 of the way there, and I just realized I was completely out of gas, which I've never done because it's always been one tank of gas to get to Gifu. So I started talking to my car, and I said, listen, I don't want to pull over on the road with no gas in the middle of the mountains in the snow. So we've got to do something together. And me and the car became one consciousness almost. And I started doing this energy clearing on my car, sending my energy into the car. And the car kept like almost going out of gas. I go, and then it would start up again. And it went about 6 or 7 exits before it finally got to a place where there's a gas station. And I made it to the gas station. I was able to fill up. So that was me believing that the entity of my car has a consciousness. So that's one of the things I do with my different healing modalities. And where I first got into that is studying what's called access consciousness, which is what I originally wanted to talk to on the show, what I wanted to talk about completely. But since we had 2 guests and I didn't know that, I'm going to just make it brief and not talk so much about access consciousness. But access consciousness is you can say it's a healing modality, or you can say it's a religion, or you can say it's a philosophy, or you can say, I don't know what you want to call it. But anyway, it was founded by a guy named Gary Douglas, who used to be a channeler, and he started channeling this healing modality where you touch people's heads and you clear all these negative memories and negative beliefs and all this stuff out of their head by just touching their head. And that's called the bars. And that's what he first started with. But then he expanded on beyond that, and he's gone into doing so many different things, which it would take hours and hours to fully talk about. But I have grown up Buddhist, studied Buddhist all my life, the final teachings of Buddhism, which are in the Lotus Sutra and the Nirvana Sutra. And at first I was studying this access consciousness, I was losing my religion. But actually the more I've got into it, and the more I've got into restudying all the Buddhist teachings that I've learned all my life, I feel that they're actually teaching the same thing. They're just using different language to teach the same thing. So that's what I originally wanted to talk about, the similarities between this healing modality and Buddhism. But I think that would take a lot more time. So why don't we just spend some time on entities? So like Jimmy was talking about houses that had entities in them. So what we do with entities is entities that are not in a body are people that have died. And in most cases, they don't know that they have a choice to leave the house that they're in because they feel comfortable there. And if you give them a choice to leave, or if you help them become conscious, is what actually you do. The reason why they call it access consciousness is it allows you to access the consciousness that you never knew you had, which is infinite consciousness, which is the same thing Buddhism teaches. Buddhism teaches that we are all Buddhas from time without beginning, or we are all Buddhas of absolute freedom, which means we have supernatural powers that we don't know we have because science hasn't yet proven we have them. But we do have these supernatural powers. And I want to just read from a book written in the 1200s, which was actually letters written from Japan to all the followers of the Buddha that we call Nichiren Daishonin. And he was talking about supernatural powers. And it says, the ordinary mortal is confused about the nature of his own mind and remains unenlightened. The Buddha is enlightened to this nature and manifests it as what are called transcendental powers. Transcendental powers means the power of the Spirit to penetrate all phenomena without hindrance. So this is what we all have the ability to do. All phenomena means living people, dead people, houses, cars, businesses, governments, whatever phenomena we want to penetrate, we have the ability within us to penetrate these with our consciousness if we become fully conscious. So all you have to do with entities, it's really simple, because I have lots of clients who have entities in their body, they have them in their house, they have them in their cars. And most people get entities in their body because they pray for something outside of them to come save them. And anytime you do that, you're opening up your life to entities coming in. And the entity might say they're Jesus Christ, they might say they're God, they might say they're Allah, they might say they're anything, but they're just dead people who are fucking with you. Excuse my French.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So, Tim, what I want to do right now,
Okay.
Just hold those thoughts, because those are excellent.
Okay.
I want to kind of interject a little bit of physics and metaphysics into what you've said.
Perfect.
Just to put some things into perspective, okay?
Okay.
Now, so when you talk about having infinite accessibility and access to things that are beyond, any kind of visual, auditory, or touch, or smell, or taste. Essentially, what you're doing is you're going effectively into the realm of the metaphysics.
Yes.
And we've known this for a long time in many different religions. We've known this for a long time in many different branches of science, but not so much the so-called earth sciences. But there's now becoming kind of a much better understanding of things. We've talked about the Akashic records oftentimes. We've talked about Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, and effectively what we're saying is that everything has consciousness, even not just an atom, but even the elementary particles of an atom, including even the quarks. So all of that has consciousness. Many of the ancients understood this. Certainly, the Native Americans understood this, and it's just part of what there is. So being able to tap into that is really what you can do in a very enlightened state, which is what Tim was talking about. Now, so that's from let's even say that that's from a Buddha perspective. But I want to give you the scientific perspective of that, and the scientific perspective of that is actually within the framework of something called action at a distance. And the action at a distance is this phenomenon which actually is within the construct, if you will, of quantum mechanics. And that means that entity A, and Tim has been talking about entities, entity A can interact with entity B in zero time with no known connection between entity A and entity B. And that's what they call, and this is now in physics, this is not metaphysics, this is not voodoo science, this is not religion, this is hard facts. We're able to do this in the laboratory, connect two things without any known way to connect them. They're now connected. These entities are connected, and they could be as little as a photon or even an electron within a particular atom being separated kind of within this magnetic field. And then as you change the polarity of one, the other one changes instantly. And that's part of the basis of the concept of quantum computing that is being developed. Anyway, so what I'm getting at is that a lot of what Tim is talking about now, what's interesting is this is wisdom from potentially tens of thousands of years old, but certainly many thousands of years old, that they've been saying this and explaining this and getting into this through the mind. And now we're discovering it through science, that there is hard scientific evidence to support exactly what it is that Tim is talking about. So I just wanted to put that into perspective for the folks out there in the audience.
Yes, thank you.
Tim, I didn't want to throw you off, but I wanted to.
No problem, thank you. I agree totally. I've been studying all that stuff too. So science is waking up to the infiniteness that reality is, because for a long time, and I think it was because of the church and the state back in the Roman days when Christianity was being created, was science had to separate itself from religion And that's been the downfall of science for the Dark Ages and for a long time after that, is that no one in science wants to bridge into the metaphysical, because that's only left for religion, because that was a conflict with the Catholic Church, because it was run by the government of the Romans. So now we don't have, we have so-called separation of church and state in most countries, and we don't need to worry about if science is saying something that the church didn't say is okay, which is basically why Galileo got his head cut off, why so many other scientists were ostracized, because they were trying to say something that the religious government didn't agree with. So now we're open to studying anything, and science is starting to regain its understanding of the infiniteness of consciousness and of the body and of just everything. So access consciousness has a similar thing that it teaches that is like these. I was talking about supernatural powers that we all have as a Buddha, if we're willing to be a Buddha, and they call these the 9 trannies, and they're transformation, transmigration, transfiguration, transsexualness, transmutation, transpiration, transliteration, translocation, and transmogrification. So let me just really quickly each one of them. Transformation is the ability to change anything from what it is into something different. So if you're willing to use full consciousness, you have this ability, which is a latent ability that everyone has. And in Buddhism, we call it one of the supernatural powers of the thus come one. And the next one is transmigration, the ability to move from one location to another without car, plane, train, bus, which means migrating across space with no time. Transfiguration is the ability to morph something from what it appears to be into something different. This might be shape-shifting or doing all kinds of stuff, which is actually an ability we all have if we knew we had it. Transsexualness is the ability to change the sexual energy of any moment or anything at will, which is, sexualness in access consciousness is a different idea than most people think of sex. It's not about having sex with people. It's about the energy of life and the energy of creation, being able to shift your energy into other people's energy to bring out that life-giving energy, which is what they call sexualness. Okay, then transpiration is the ability to change something that is going to transpire in the future and change it into something that doesn't have to be, or something else that can occur. This is called transpiration. Okay, then the next one is transmutation, the ability to change something from what it currently is into something you would like it to be, which would be a mutation from what it is into something greater. And then translocation is the ability to move something from one location to another. Transliteration is the ability to talk in any language and understand all languages, even the language of animals, of plants, and insects. And the ability to read energies and read minds, to know what people mean, even when that is not what they say. So people can say things and you can know that they're not saying the truth, or they're saying the truth based on your ability to perceive their thoughts and feelings and emotions. And then transmogrification, the ability to shift what you look into something different. Or the ability to shift what you look like into something different. That's shape-shifting. Got them confused. So these are some of the abilities that we have as infinite beings, which Buddhism calls it the Buddha of absolute freedom, which we all are in our true being. But Access Conscious calls it being an infinite being, which we all are. So Access Conscious and Buddhism both believe that we've lived thousands and thousands of lives on this planet and other planets in the multiverse, and there's no end to time and there's no end to space. It just keeps going forever. And actually time in Access Conscious is not a real reality. It's a construct. So anyway, we can talk about that on another occasion. But these abilities are what you can play with if you become fully conscious. And so the tools that Access Conscious uses is to bring out your full consciousness. In Buddhism, we chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo to bring out this infinite consciousness that we all have, which is our Buddha nature. So there's very similars between both of them. But I wanted to tie it back to the entity clearing because that's what you guys were talking about before. I have many clients who've had entities in their house, in their cars, in their bodies, and it's very simple to talk to the entity and help the entity become conscious. And once they become conscious, they'll no longer want to be where they are because they're stuck in a place because they don't know they have a choice to leave that place. And that's the only reason why an entity would be stuck in your body or in your house or anywhere to possess it at all is because they don't know they have a choice. So
yeah, I mean, it certainly is a good theory. But the interesting part about that is that the very nature of an entity existing after the death of the host, enters into this whole realm of the metaphysical, and now we're actually coming up with tangible proof that, viable theories to support the notion that is possible when before we did not think it was possible.
yeah. So we can go off on a lot of different areas. I'm wondering what you would like to talk about. I was originally going to talk about this ability to know the future and the past, which is something we all have the ability to know. And I wanted to read a little Socrates because I used to read a lot of Socrates back in my college days. And he said, here's from the Meno, which is page 43 of the Great Dialogues of Plato. He says, "They say that the soul of man is immortal, and sometimes it comes to an end, which they call death, and sometimes it is born again, but it is never destroyed. Then, since the soul is immortal and often born, having seen what is on earth and what is in the house of Hades, and everything, there is nothing it has not learnt. So there is no wonder it can remember about virtue and other things, because it knew about these before. For since all nature is akin, and the soul has learnt everything, there is nothing to hinder a man remembering one thing only, which men call learning, from himself finding out all else, if he is brave and does not weary in seeking. For seeking and learning is all remembrance." So this is something that Access Consciousness talks about and Buddhism talks about, that actually everything you know is something you've already known before, and knowing is just ability to perceive and receive the information from the collective unconsciousness, or the you can call it the universal field of awareness. We can know everything, which is what Buddhism teaches and Access Consciousness teaches. So you can know which way to go on a street if you've never been there. You can know what your body needs to eat if you ask your body what it really desires. You can know so many things that science maybe says you can't know unless you discovered them in the physical realm. But you can know so many things that you don't have to learn from a book, is what I'm saying.
One of the things that even psychologists are getting into more and more now is the whole notion of body knowing. And what that essentially means is that we have this, and Jimmy even talked about it earlier in the segment, that we have this a way to sense things without any known physical data. Sheldrake, or this fellow named Sheldrake, interesting physicist that I've communicated with. He's never been on the show, but Rupert Sheldrake, I reference his books in my books, and we've had some intellectual conversations on this topic. Writes about the notion of being able to be